Good evening, everybody. It's Paul English here, and welcome to episode 2 of Wednesday Night on the Small Screen. Tonight's episode, we are going to be talking about the television show Animorphs. Based on the hit book series by K.A. Applegate, Animorphs tells the story of 5 kids who discover that Earth is a target of an invading extraterrestrials known as the Yeerks. Parasitic slug who crawl into your ear and take control of your brain. In order to fight the Yeerks, these 5 kids are given the power to morph by the creature known as an Andalite, who is a sworn enemy of the Yeerks, and fighting them across the galaxy to halt the Yeerks invasion. So that's the premise, and these kids use the power to morph, to change shapes, become animals, and use these animals to fight the Yeerks wherever they can. So that's the premise of the show. Let's talk about some of the details of the show itself. Starting with the theme song. I freaking love this theme. To this day, one of the best theme songs I have ever heard in my life. Be able to describe it to you doesn't really do much justice to you. So, because I'm actually going to play the theme song for you. Wait till you hear this. You ready? Here it comes. How badass is that? What I love about this theme song is that it starts off so ominous, so gloomy, like it's the end of the world, and then the second half it finishes up with a very hopeful, optimistic beat that lets you know everything's gonna be okay and we're gonna get through this. And oh my god, it is such an amazing theme song. So let's talk about the story itself. It's very dark, it's suspenseful, and the episodes are very well written. Now, as I mentioned, because this is based on a book series, and a very good book series, K. Applegate did such a great job writing these stories that I don't think Nickelodeon really had to do too much in order to adapt these into very good episodes, because they were already amazing books. So, I'm definitely not the typical stuff that you'd expect from Nickelodeon, which has always been very kid-friendly. Animorphs was much more on the lines of, although not as good as like Batman the Animated Series or Superman or any of like Warner Brothers, DC properties, or it was going in that same direction, which was darker, more serious, not trying to talk down to children the way those shows did. So it was in that same genre of like, it was a kid show, but it really pushed the boundaries of what a kid show could be. And I give it a lot of credit and respect for that. So that's the story. Now let's talk about the characters on the show. And when you're watching the show, and reading the books and watching the show, you realize that the characters in these stories came down to a lot of the same typical stereotype teen characters that you saw in a lot of kids shows in the 90s. You have Jake being the stern leader, Marco is the goofball, Rachel the pretty girl next door, Cassie is the genius when it comes to animals. Tobias was always the muscle guy, though he's a lot more, muscle and gung-ho and go-get-em type of guy in the books than he was in the show. They really toned that back a little bit. And then later on in the book series and the show, when we get introduced to Axe, an Andalite stranded on Earth, because of his knowledge of the Yeerks, he takes on kind of the mentor role, although being so young, I don't know. Yeah, he's definitely a mentor type despite his youth. One of the younger Andalites in the army, in their military, I guess you could say. But despite these, cliched stereotypes, the characters still hold up strong. The characters are well written, and you can identify with at least one of them, no matter who you are. You identify with at least one of these characters. So those are definitely some of the positives of the show. Unfortunately, the big negative about this was the CGI effects, and it failed because it was the late '90s. CGI still kind of in its infancy. People were still trying to figure out what they were going to do. So the CGI on this show was pretty mixed. Sometimes it looked good, other times it didn't. When you look at the Andalites themselves, when they do appear, sometimes they look good. When you get close up, the eyes look good. You can see their stalks on their heads that contain their extra eyes. Andalites do have 4 eyes, so at times they look good. Other times they look like puppets or like statues, something like that. The Andalites were very mixed. The ships that you see at times, they look absolutely horrible. You can clearly tell they're CGI. They look terrible. The morphing sequences, however, actually look really good. I'm impressed with how well the morphing sequences are. They look really good. It really gives the impression that these kids are morphing. They're becoming these animals. And yeah, so that was well done. Another negative is one of the other aliens featured in the show, the Hork-Bajir. They do not look anything like they do in the books. They are described as so much more fearsome looking in the books than they are in the show. So that was definitely a letdown. So, like I said, it was the late '90s. CGI was still in its infancy. They definitely, look. A lot of the effects do look dated compared to effects that we see today. Some of them look good. Other times they they sucked. So those are the positive and the negative. So overall, let's talk about the show. Overall, it was definitely a good show. Like I said, the books were very well written, so it allowed the episodes to be well written. The characters were good. Unfortunately, it suffered due to the timeline that it was in. It was the late '90s, and yeah, some character-wise it worked, story-wise it worked, but it suffered due to the bad effects. That being said, because it was still well written, because there were good characters, I do believe that this show deserves another adaptation. Give it to another network like the CW, because it's the CW. They have The Flash, they have Arrow. Let's go. You guys know how much I love those shows. Yeah, I would say give another network like the CW, give another chance to give this another adaptation with the effects we have today and the talent they have on that network. I'm sure that this, and also considering the fact that they adapt pretty much every book series these days. I mean, look at how many adaptations of book series there are right now in the movies. You got Hunger Games, there was Twilight, and The Maze Runner. I mean, there are Ender's Game. There are so many book adaptations right now. Why not turn this book into a television show? It could work. In the right hands, with the CGI advanced the way it has, I do believe this could be a kick-ass fucking show. So guys, those are my thoughts on Animorphs. It's an underrated show. If you have access to it, I strongly advise you to check it out. You can find it on Netflix, the entire series. It was a very good show. I highly encourage you to check it out. Alright guys, so that's going to wrap up episode 2 of Wednesday Night on the Small Screen. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good day.